BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Lyric Corner. I am Jackie, and I decided that I'm gonna go ahead and do the mid-year check-in tag for 2024. I did just film a video that was a little more negative because I was talking about the classics I don't like, and trying to explain what's there. I mean, there aren't that many. There were only a few books I talked about, and I figured I'll put a more positive video out after since I just uploaded that one, which is a little more negative. Although I am apprehensive of how people are gonna react. Although maybe it's not that big of a deal. But you know how people can get when you put out something negative and you get like you rant about or something, which not that I did. I don't think I really ranted, but I don't know how people are going to react to that one, so I figured let me also put out a more positive video and update you guys on my reading so far this year. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this tag because some of these questions I had trouble coming up with answers, like especially the first one. I don't like those questions where it's like the best of so far, or like what's a book you recommend to everybody, like where you have to pick one, make one choice. I don't like those kinds of questions because it's very hard for me to come up with one answer. But I did, and it's actually not it's not a fantasy book. It seems like the last few years, the books I end up loving I still love my fantasy book, and there are a lot of fantasy books that I just absolutely love and are my favorites. But a lot of times when you ask me this kind of question, sometimes it's the ones that aren't the fantasy books that end up being the best for me. And let me find it. Let me see, where is it? Where did I put it? Okay, here it is. So I ended up picking the best of so far this year is Rebecca's Tale by Sally Bowman. If you are a fan of the novel Rebecca, this is kind of a like telling the story allowing for Rebecca's story to be told. Like you get her point of view. You have a Scottish historian has come to I don't know if Rebecca, I guess it takes place in England. I mean, for some reason I thought it was America, but I think because the main narrator of the original novel is Canadian, not American, but still, for some reason I was thinking America. I mean, I think there might be the woman she's kind of being a companion to in the beginning, our narrators in the beginning of the book, I think she's American. So maybe that's why. But, they cast, an American actor who recently, I just learned had some controversies about him, to play, what is his name? The main guy. I'm drawing a blank here with his name. But, he has come to England to figure out what happened. So this is after the present day of this novel is years after the events of Rebecca. And he's trying to figure out what exactly happened. So, and he talks to the Colonel Julian, who becomes one of the main characters in the story. He was a minor character in the original novel. So we get his perspective. We also get our main character. What is his name? Terence Gray. He's the Scottish historian who shows up. And we also get Colonel Julian's daughter's perspective. And we also run into some of the original characters, not just Colonel Julian, but also some of the other characters like Rebecca's cousin Jack. I think his name was Jack. I think it was Jack. I might be thinking about Bridgerton, but no, I think his name was Jack, the cousin in Rebecca. We also cross paths with him, and how we get Rebecca's story is through we have a collection of her diaries that she kept during that time when she was married to Maxim, and we find out what her history and how she crossed paths with Max, her childhood. And so we get her voice. We learn her perspective because all the other characters look at her with these rose-colored glasses. They all look at her a certain way because they don't really know her. So this looks at that theme of, of a person that is so mysterious and seems so unforgettable, and that you want to know them, and you put them up on this pedestal, or you put them up at this person that you just despise and you hate, but you also kind of respect them and envy them and desire to be around them, but you don't really know who they are. You don't know what their inner workings are, and that explores that. And now people didn't really understand Rebecca. Everyone had their own ideas of who Rebecca was, but they really didn't know her. And we also, of course, explore the struggle, being a woman. And once again, this book also explores the struggles of being a woman during this time and their lack of power, and how, they had to often marry men to survive, and the different women and how they respond to that kind of situation and their struggles in it. This was just so good, a page turner. Like I said, if you're a fan of the original novel, I think you would like this, but maybe not. Sometimes I don't trust my own judgment with this kind of stuff. I very much enjoyed it, and I also love the original novel. I've read the original novel twice now, and I think if you're curious, then check it. I would recommend checking this book out. It was very well written. I think the author did a good job at trying to mimic the writing style. And it was just a really good book, and very much a page turner, and you were very immersed in the time period, and it's just really good. This is, so far, I'm claiming this is my best book. I mean, there are probably other books that I absolutely love that I thought were really good. Like, I enjoyed finally finishing Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Stoner was really good. Trying to think of other and Echo of Things to Come, which was the sequel to The Shadow of What Was Lost. That was really good. A lot of the Filipino novels, literature that I've read were really good too. So it was very hard, but I ended up going with this one. Okay. So question number 2 is new release you haven't read yet but want to. First of all, I picked The Familiars by Leigh Bardugo. This is about the Spanish Inquisition. And it's different from the Grishaverse, which is, I agree with Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. I think that was a good, that she needed to do that, step away from the Grishaverse for a little while. And it was also like I said, I feel like there's not enough novels that take place during the time period of the Spanish Inquisition. So I think there's a fantasy element, like there's magic and, the whole, something similar to the Salem witch trials, where it's like, you can't, if you do any certain kinds of magic, you're gonna get in trouble for it. I think that it was kind of that kind of premise from what I recall. And then The Graveyard Shift by Ellen Rio. That's another one I want to check out. I liked her other book, If We Were Villains. And this one, I just remember this one also sounded something like I would be interested in. Some of these books feel more like, mystery thriller types, and normally I don't always go for those, but sometimes the premise can be intriguing enough for me. Warm Hands of Ghost by Catherine Arden. I liked her Winter Night trilogy, and Ghost, and it looks like a historical kind of novel, so if it looks like it's historical and there's ghost involved, there's a bit of a ghost story, then you got my attention with that one. And then A Fate Inks in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. That's a fantasy, and I don't remember what that was about. I just marked it as something I wanted to read. It is a book, and it is in a series, unless it's a trilogy. And it's fantasy, so those are ones I end up putting as books that I'm still haven't read, but I want to. The Familiar is the one I'm most intrigued by. Oh, and I guess Warm Hand of Ghost too. Okay, question number 3 is most anticipated releases for the second half. Now, one of them literally just was released, just came out. The first one I wrote, which is The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. Now, I haven't read his Magician, which I did bring that out to you as an answer to one of these questions. But I like his ideas. I think his ideas are really cool, and I also, and I think it's an Arthurian legend type story. So, once I had to read The Magicians, and there's there's a small chance I might change my mind. But as of right now, I'm definitely intrigued. I just haven't. I figured, I should read The Magicians trilogy first, and then check that one out at some point. And that will give it enough time for it to come out on paperback, because I don't normally get I normally try to stick to paperbacks, especially with the size and everything. Although I recently purchased a book that's, I think, is kind of a chunker, and it's a hardback, and I got the hardback version. Okay, now, and the sword, The Bright Sword just came out on July 16th. So it is the second half of the year, but it already came out. So it's not, Okay, so also we have a couple of autumnal releases that I put. The other two books are autumnal releases that I picked up, which is The Hitchcock Hotel by Stephanie Warble, that comes out September 24th. The fact that it was called The Hitchcock Hotel, that got my attention, because I'm not a hardcore fan, but I've seen some of his movies. I've seen Psycho. I've seen, and I read the book Psycho, and, what is the one with Jimmy Stewart, and he's obsessed with that one woman, Vertigo. I really like that one, and then and I think I've seen The Birds, too. And just I really like his movies. I haven't seen all of them, but I am definitely Hitchcock. I find a very interesting director, a very intriguing director. So, and just his cult following that has developed over the years is really fascinating. So I also like the idea of someone creating something that's inspired by something they're obsessed with, or a new term I learned was Roman Empire, which is basically that, something that the thing that you are currently obsessed with. I learned that from an actor from Bridgerton. I did not know what that was, but apparently it's I think it's the thing you're passionate about or obsessed with, and I think there are a lot of people that are Hitchcock fans that are obsessed with him and his movies, and just the idea of someone creating a hotel based on Hitchcock and his movies. And of course, because Hitchcock is known for his films are thrillers, or books that are based off of thrillers and mysteries and stuff like that. The book description implies that there might be a dead body in the book, so it just really intrigued me, especially since I've already read Psycho. And then we have the other one is Don't Let the Force In by C.G. Drews. That comes out October 29th, so close to Halloween, actually. This is a bit of a mystery. It feels like a bit of a mystery story, thriller story. You got these two guys that, were infatuated with each other. I don't know. I think they were in love with each other. And one of them had disappeared years ago. One of them, he came from an abusive family, and he disappeared into, a forest at one point for years, and he comes out and there's blood on his hands. And there's something to do with these. He also is someone who draws, and he creates monsters, and they might be coming to life. and just the premise sounded really creepy and fun. And just really, like, I would love to see it, you know, if it's a good book, I would love to see it adapted, although I think a lot of people right now currently are not too keen on the adaptations that have come out over the years. But there are some of them that I still can imagine an adaptation. I would love to see an adaptation. And so yeah, and so those are the two that haven't come out yet that sound really good. Okay, so question number 4 is the most surprising book so far. I picked 2 books. Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manasanala. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That was really fun. It was really fun, and I like how the narrator, you know, it's more like the audiobook surprising because I didn't read the physical book. I like how the narrator, you know, I don't know if the narrator herself is Filipino, but she did a really good job with, you know, I think with the accent, and the family scenes are really fun, and just, this was just a really fun, entertaining read. And, you know, I am picky with my contemporary stories. And then Good Kings, Bad Kings, I really appreciated that one too. Like, it was one that I had not heard about. I just saw it at the roast office, and I bought it. And what got my attention was it deals with it's kids being sent to a school / facility that is, or more like a facility, like a nursing home type place that's for kids with disabilities. And I thought that was really cool. Like, it's one I hadn't heard of, so I appreciated that, and I really enjoyed reading a book that kind of focused on that. Although I like to see books that focus on those kinds of things more in a fantasy story. Because I'm more of a fantasy person. But the only thing that disappointed me about it was that I wish that the author, first of all, the author she is in a wheelchair and she had an accident where she ends up in a wheelchair, where she's been in a wheelchair. So I understand why she focused on that, why she wrote about that, because it's her experience. So I get that, but I kind of wish that she had tackled some of the other more non-physical disabilities, more the invisible disabilities, like autism. I wish now I know there are contemporary books that have autism stories, so maybe I'll read those, but like I said, I'm always looking for fantasy books that have characters that are autistic. But maybe if I come across stories where characters have autism, I did read The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson, which I think that does focus on, I think we have a character that has autism, is on the autism spectrum, although when that book was published, I think that was more Asperger's at the time, when Asperger's was still considered a term that was used. So I've read that one. I think that one is, the main character is on the spectrum. But yeah, either way, I still am glad, I still appreciate that this book tackled these issues of physical disability, especially in, you know, people that are in bad family situations, in bad environments, that kind of need the help but can't seem to get it because they can't afford it or something, or people don't pay attention to that. Okay, so next is favorite author so far, and the only new author from me that I've read so far this year is this author, F. Sonil Jose. This is one of his standalone books, Viajero, which translates to traveler. And then this is the first book in his Rosales series. I don't know if he's an all-time favorite yet, but I do want to read more of his books. I'm intrigued by him. It was this I really enjoyed. I probably like this one a little bit better than that one, and I like the themes he explores, but it could also be because I have not read a lot of Filipino literature yet. I'm still kind of exploring. I definitely have done a lot of that this first half of the year. I've definitely been exploring that and trying more Filipino literature. So I don't know for sure if he would be a favorite or not, but he's the only more newest author to me, and I really enjoy that. So, and I've enjoyed him so far. Okay, next is new favorite character, and this was the ones I also had trouble with, and I couldn't come up with an answer. I mean, I'm sure there is a favorite character somewhere that I have. I'm sure there is. I just can't figure out who it is right now. So I know that's kind of lame, but I can't think of a favorite character right now. Okay, and a book that made me cry, and like I said, I've said this before, I don't cry in books, I cry in TV shows or movies, but I don't cry in books. I guess my imagination is just not that good. But I did pick, like, some of the books that made me sad is Tom Lake. That one kind of made me sad a little bit, but it also there was also hope at the end of that book. So, that one made me, but the one that I have to actually show you that made me sad is When Elephants Dance by Tessa Yariza Holf. This takes place during World War II, and the focus of it is on the Philippine territories and when the Japanese took over and were there, had them trapped for 3 years. And this particular family would live in their cellar, and these, these kids hearing the stories from their elders about, and trying to hide and trying to survive during this time and the horrors of when Japan took over. It's a very sad story. I mean, like, obviously, if you read World War II books and they make you cry, then this will be no different, I feel like. Even though, like I said, I don't cry during books, but I think it could make other people cry because it is very heartbreaking situation and horrible. I mean, and really the beginning of it is brutal. The beginning scene is just, there's torture and it's horrifying. So just a warning, if you read this book, the beginning is pretty rough. I never show you Good Kings, Bad Kings. Because I had that. I was so happy that I had that to show you guys, and I forgot to pick it up. Okay, and so a book that made me happy, and I just picked Arsenic in Adobo. It's the most fluffy of the books that I've read. It's the most happy and wholesome story that I've read this month, because even, like, The Tale of Genji is not super dark, and I read that this year, but although it's a abridged version, but it's not but it still has its little bit of sadness for the women that Genji leaves behind. That part is kind of sad. But so it's not completely happy story, but Arsenic was a very happy story. I mean, although even in that one there's a little bit of sadness because it's a character that left her hometown, her family, and close friends behind to live, for her career. And, for a guy, she leaves to live her own life and try to become independent and does come back, and everyone's a little resentful for her abandoning them. But it's still it was such a lighthearted story, even though there's a murder involved, it still was very lighthearted. It's kind of a cozy murder mystery where, yes, there's a murder, and that part of it is kind of sad because you know, our main character learns that maybe she could have prevented this from this person that gets murdered from ending up the way they did. So there is a little bit of sadness, but it was still a very fluffy, fun story. There were a lot of family scenes with our main character and her family, and a lot of conversation over dinner, and it made me hungry. So it was just a very fun, fluffy read, despite the fact that there was a murder mystery. It's still, you know, I mean, a lot of Agatha Christie books are like that, where there's a murder mystery. Although it's not a character you necessarily get to know that gets murdered. I mean, you get a little bit to know. I mean, although I haven't read a lot of her books, so maybe I'm wrong here, but there is a little sadness, but it still managed to make me very happy, this book. I had a good time with it. And I like all the family scenes. Okay, so... Okay, first I'm going to skip number 9 and come back to number 9. But, number 10 is a book you need to read by the end of the year, and I grabbed multiple options. So this one, Babel, an Arcane History by R.F. Kuang. I liked her other series, The Dragon, The Poppy War, her trilogy. So I need to read this one. So I definitely want to read this one before. Then we have Senlin Ascends. It is a book and a quartet. I want to read this one, as I've heard a lot about, especially from Alan from the library, Alexandria. Although I do know that a lot of people that have talked about this did not like the ending, but I still want to read it. And I love the concept of who the main character is, and how he is someone who's traveling through this giant tower, like the Tower of Pisa, and each level is a whole different world. The whole concept of the story is really fun and intriguing. Also, the guy is basically a nerd by the sound of it. And then we have, like I said, I wanted to get to The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I mentioned that I am intrigued and interested in his newest book, but I want to read this trilogy first. I've seen the show. It was one of my favorites, and I want to finally read the book. And I did attempt to read it once, but at the time I wasn't interested. But Murphy Napier got me interested again, and also, like I said, I love the show. So even though there are going to probably be plenty of differences, I still want to read the trilogy. So this is the first book, The Magicians. Also, we have Dombey and Son by Dickens. This was one that I picked up again recently and last weekend, and I want to try to finish it this season, you know. And this one should be a priority read. I still got a good way to go, but like I'm trying to make sure there's a lot of books that I've been in the middle of that I put down because they're super long that I actually finish. And like this year, I finally finished Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. A couple years ago, the one I finished was The Count of Monte Cristo with help from audiobook. So I want to finish. This one is my next one that I would like to try to finish before the end of the, you know. Okay, and then we have Ship of Magic, although this one is not a guarantee. This is the first book in the Live Ship Stranger trilogy by Robin Hobb. I've been trying to get back into Robin Hobb lately, especially because their Books A Million is finally selling these particular editions of the books. I mean, they're not super fancy, but I like the size, and I like how some of them, the covers look like parchment. I mean, look kind of like not parchment, but medieval manuscripts. Like, I like how some of the covers look like that, and like especially when we get to the Fitz stories. And I just recently purchased Fitz in the Tawny Man trilogy. Fitz in the Fool is the last one. And I want to get the other trilogy in those editions as well, but this is Ship of Magic, And like this one was, I was really excited about this premise when I first heard about it, because it's like the spirits of the ancestors that drive these ships possess them when they die, and all of a sudden it gives the ship magical powers and it gives the ship life. And our main character is a woman who wants to be a captain of the ship, and after her father, she wants to be the heir to her father's live ship, but then her brother-in-law takes it from her. He's kind of given it to him by her mom, who wants to, and it's the whole age-old like, oh, you're a lady, you should be married off and wear pretty dresses. Being on the ship is no place for you. That kind of thing. The whole sexist idea. And, which, by the way, I get why that trope gets old after a while, but that one doesn't bother me as much. Even as, a female reader, I don't mind it when you read books. I mean, if I read too many of them, more one after another with that kind of thing, then yeah, it would probably get annoying after a while. But I read so many different types of books that tropes like that don't bother me as much. So, but I could see where someone would be like do something different. Just because you have a fantasy world doesn't mean you have to have sexism as a conflict. You could have other reasons why someone doesn't like a character, not just because they're the opposite sex. But so far, I love Rob Knobbs' writing. It's just, like, I kind of took a break for a while, and, finally I decided to come back to her and read her books again, because I did like them. I just, for some reason, was, like, stepping away from her for a while. So, that's one I would like to attempt to read by the end of the year, but I don't know if that will happen. Okay, and then we have, this one is a definite. I should really consider reading by the end of the year, and that is The Ultimate Thru Hike. It's a science fiction book that involves a character traveling on a planet, so there's hiking involved. I met the author back in, I think it was 2022, and I still haven't read it. I've read 2 books, I bought 4 books that day when we went to I went with my dad to the author event, so 2 of them I read. But they were also quick books, quick reads. One of them just wasn't for me. It was just more of I was trying, it was experimental kind of thing. Experimental for me. I was experimenting on that type of story. And then the other one was kind of more my thing, but it's not as much my thing anymore. But this one's, I remember the concept and the way the author talked about. Of course, he's hyping up his book, so, and it involves hobbies that he really enjoys. So I keep meaning to read this. The good news is I felt guilty when my dad invited me to go to it's a yearly thing, this particular author event. So he invited me to go with him again, because this time he has a table, because my dad does have 2 books published. And he invited me to go, but I was nervous about going in case the author of this book and the other book, Enemy Like Me, was there. Now, my dad is still into contact with the woman who wrote Enemy Like Me, the other book I bought, because he also bought one of her books, and she has been helping him with being a published author, getting his works out there and stuff. So he's been in contact with her lately, and I think she was there. I don't know if he was going to be there, but I would be very apprehensive. I would feel really bad if he was there and I hadn't read his book yet. So I was very nervous, and I decided I didn't want to go. And I think I was working anyway when he went, so it worked out that I didn't end up not going. But yeah, I definitely want to read this one. And it's the print's, not that hard to read. It's good print. It's, but this is Christopher Cancilla. And the guy seemed really nice. He seemed very friendly. And he seemed very passionate about hiking, and this guy, and it just, so I've been meaning to pick this up and get back to it. And just the concept does sound really cool. Hiking on another planet is really cool. It kind of makes me think of Dune a little bit. But I need to get to this one. And then the last one is another second book in the series, and that is Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness. Is the sequel to Discovering Witches, which I really liked, and I read this. I don't know if it was 2022 or 2023 when I started this. It might have been 2023. But this continues the Diana and Matthew's story and their romance. But this time they're going back in time to Elizabethan era and to get some answers about Diana and her powers. And and then once I read the second one, I want to watch the series. I want to watch season 2 of this because I have the show. I end up getting on Blu-ray. And just, I really love this concept, and it is a more grown, I feel like it's a more mature version of Twilight, but the character, like, Diana is much, I'm sorry to say, but I do think Diana's more, for me, Diana's more intriguing. Her interest in, you know, history, and her reason for not wanting to use her powers, that's really interesting. And I mean, and yeah, there's the, you know, Matthew's not too different, not like, is kind of has a lot of similar traits to Edward. He's still a very different person, I feel like. But yeah, he does seem to be some, but I feel like a lot of vampire stories, a lot of vampires, there's gonna be that one vampire who's kind of more brooding and hates himself and sees himself as a monster and falls for the mortal girl and all that. But yeah, I want to come back to this as well. Okay, so now let's go back to question number 9. I say that because that one involves showing you a bunch of covers. So your most beautiful cover, I couldn't decide. So I just grabbed all of my recent purchases, not all of them, but a lot of them, and want to show you all the covers that I think are really pretty. I really like Japanese art style. So this is the Tale of Genji, the abridged version. Which actually I think is really cool to find out. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I would be interested in going to Japan, but my friend Terry might be going in Japan in September or August. So I do think that's really cool. It's just, like I said, it's, if she watches this, it's not, I don't have any interest in going to Japan. But I do think it's really cool that she might be going. And if she sees a version of the Tale of Genji, no, I mean, I'm sure that would be really expensive, so. But, this is one of the first novel, and I think this cover is really beautiful. I don't know if it's supposed to be a woman, or, because sometimes I just find this is a really beautiful cover. And I know that the kimonos that people wore in Japan, that we wear in Japan, have a lot of the images from this story, because it's such a famous classic, Japanese classic. Speaking of Japanese, we also have The Pillow Book by Sei Shogunan. This also is a similar story to the Tale of Genji, where you're learning about the court life of Japan at the time. And like I said, the Japanese artwork is so cool, and I think it's very unique art style that I really like it. So that's why I think both those. I don't know why, I just think this I think is really pretty. I'm glad that this was the edition that I think that the bookstore had. Brightside Revisited. It's a classic, and I just heard a description of what this book is about, but I don't remember what they said. But anyway, I just think the typography and like that wallpaper kind of design for the cover, I think is really pretty. And I like this teal color, teal and black, and I didn't even think about this when I picked this bookmark, but our bookstore, Gibbons Bookshop, they have these paper bookmarks, and sometimes I buy them, sometimes I'll pick one up, and sometimes I don't. And I did not realize that it kind of matches. It was kind of an accident. I just grabbed this one because I liked it. I mean, maybe subconsciously I remembered this is the cover. This was the look of this book. I mean, that's why I grabbed it, and I gravitated toward this bookmark. But yeah, I really like it. Did not mean to do that, but I did. Okay, this is really cool too. I really like this cover design. This whole dragon aesthetic is really cool and kind of creepy. The author is Native American, I believe, but this reminds me of Chinese dragons. So I don't know if it is on an island, but yeah, the author, it is an indigenous character. So, but this, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's just this reminds me of a Chinese dragon aesthetic. And I like the red. I like this red color. I always like the color red. Especially darker reds. Okay, and then we have the Possession, which is a romance. It's an epic tale. First of all, it smells like an old book. It definitely smells like an old book, but this feels like something out of a, biblical artwork, or medieval paintings, which I think is really pretty. I like that style too. So I really like. So a lot of these are not super glamorous. They're not like special editions. It's just the artwork of the cover is really pretty. And then we have this is a bind up of some of Fitzgerald's work. I did once have a bind up of his short stories, but I read so many of them that they all bled together a little bit, and they all felt similar. So I took a break from Fitzgerald. But then I was kind of inspired to give him another shot, and I was interested in reading, I think it was The Beautiful and the Damned. And I had a mass market paperback copy of that one. But as I've said before, I've kind of tried to slowly get rid of all my mass markets because I just don't like it. Not that there's anything bad about them, it's just not my preference. But I just thought the design of the special collector's edition of all his, a lot of his main novels, because it doesn't have, there is one novel, Tender's the Night, is not in here, in this collection. But it does have some of the short stories I've already read in this collection. But I just thought this design, very 1920s, which of course is Fitzgerald's. Of course you're going to have a 1920s aesthetic. Very the Jazz Age. So this teal color with the gold. It also kind of makes me think of the recent Baz Luhrmann adaptation of The Great Gatsby with that aesthetic. But yeah, the cover design, and it's a very simple design. And I just think all I think it's really cool. This look and the silhouettes of the man and the woman, just like 1920s. That's so that one, and these are this is my most recent purchase, although I have 2 more books to tell you about that I was going to answer for an earlier question, but I forgot to mention them. But The Star and the Strange Moon, I think this by Constance Sayers. I got this book at Walmart, and I love the colors and the design, the border, and the shadow of a woman, and how it looks kind of like a flickering sepia film, which, going by the back description, that makes sense. It does involve old films. And you know, it's just really, in the typography, the print of the title, I think that is really pretty. I like this typography. It just looked really pretty, and like the cover definitely caught my attention, and the premise also, and I did read the back description. The premise got my attention too. But we're talking beautiful covers, so I mean, I wish I had special editions, but I'm always happy ends up buying those fancy editions for myself. And then the Overstory by Richard Powers. I keep hearing about this one. I know that the actress from, you know, she played Daenerys in Game of Thrones, and she was in Me Before You. Emilia Clarke. Now I remember her name, Emilia Clarke. She loves this book. But the whole forest aesthetic, I think, is really pretty. And the whole like circle within the circle, and I love that forest green color. But yeah, the colors of this book, and the forest scene, the forest setting, I think is really pretty. So those are books that my newest books that I think are really pretty. Sorry, there's no like special editions. And then 2 books that I recently purchased that are, one of them is not they're not new releases, but I'm just really excited to read them at some point. First we have this one, The Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. And I just love this book. I wish they had done more with the Naked. I wish they had done something with the Naked hardback. But this, like, they need to release. I mean, it's too late. I can't buy it, but they need to release an edition of this book with some of the art, Alan Lee's artwork. I think that would be really cool, or something. Or do something. They should have. I feel like it's a missed opportunity that they couldn't do something with the Naked hardback, like put some Lord of the Rings something on it, or I don't know, like something. Like, I don't like. It's always disappointing when there's not a design on the Naked hardback, or it's kind of disappointing when there is a little bit of a design, but you can't see it, or like it's small. Like you can, it has the color works, but like it's like on the corner or something. Like I really like the design of, what is it? The some of Leigh Bardugo's books, like the what is it? The Scarred King, or I can't think of what it's called. But that where the whole Naked hardback has a design on it. Like I love those that, or like the I am envious of those Fairy Loot editions. I love those. I think that's really what I want. The Fairy Loot editions of the books. Like I wish you could just buy those. Like I don't need all the, I mean, some of it looks nice, but some of it could be useful. Some of the things they put in those Fairy Loot boxes, but but really I'm after the look of the book. And I know it's more like a book just set for display, so really, do I need it to buy it if I'm just gonna like set it for display? Do I really have the room? No, I don't have the room on my shelves. But maybe one day I can pick favorite books if they have that kind of edition. But yeah, the fact that these are letters from Tolkien himself, I think is really cool. This is one of those ones where I got the hardback, and the other book I'm going to talk about is also a hardback. Normally I don't do them. Normally I stick to paperbacks, but you know, the cynical hardbacks can be sometimes nice. The only problem is that it's harder to travel because these have more weight to them, and you have to worry about the dust jacket. And I know a lot of people will take the dust jacket off, but I have this thing where I don't want to take the dust jacket off. Especially if the book, there's nothing on the book. I mean, that's really what it is. If there's nothing on the heart, you know, on the naked hardback that makes it look pretty, then yeah, I want to keep the dust jacket on. Which I know is silly and vain and shallow, but I just, you know, I'm not above pretty things. I need something that looks nice. But yeah, the fact that this is letters, actual letters from Tolkien is really cool. I know I would also love to get the letters from Santa that where he pretended to be Santa and responding to his children. But yeah, this is really I think I just got so excited seeing this, and I do want to read that I want to read the biography, which I did put on my Amazon wish list. So we have that. And then the other one I literally just purchased, and that is The Secrets of Heartwood Hall. This was by Katie Ludson. I've never heard her say her last name, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but she is the booktuber Katie from Books and Things. She has recently published another book, The Trouble with now I can't think of what it's called. The Trouble with I cannot remember. And I don't think it's coming out in the US because I did try to look for it. Although she did post links on the video where she talks about her inspiration of where you can get her book. So I would like to get that one. I want to get that one. I think I could probably find it on Amazon if I put her name. But anyway, I finally bought it. I'm so excited to read it. It's and then I want to get to her new book as well. But like I said, I don't know if it's coming out in the US, if I can access it yet. But yeah, it's the premises of her book sounds really cool. And I still have not gotten Homecoming yet. by Kate Morton. I still have not got it. I mean, I really need to buy it. But I've been trying to collect Robin Hobb's books as well, so maybe, I mean, I say that and then I end up being distracted by something else, but I probably should consider getting Homecoming from Books A Billion next time I go, maybe in August. Anyway, so those are my answers to the mid-year check-in tag. If you guys have answers for these questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. If you are interested in more of my videos, click the bell icon to be notified about them if you want. And I would love, if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you guys to give me a thumbs up and click subscribe, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.